Hi there, welcome back to the third part of this webinar series. So it's a visualization step-by-step series. My name is Trina. I'm the Southeast Asia Teaching Fellow for Google News Lab. Now, today we'll be talking about how to use Flourish to basically make your own data visualization. So on the first day, in the part one, we brushed on how to use how to create your own charts using Google Sheets, right? So that's the fast and dirty, scrappy way. But if you want to have slightly more effort to make things look a bit more nicer, then you could try using Flourish. It's free. I put up the link in the comments box. So you can just copy that flourish.studio link. And if you don't have an account, sign up. It's very fast and it's free. And if you do have an account, just have to log in. And just as a notification that most newsrooms can access for the premium account for free from Flourish. So all you have to do is just scroll down to the bottom of the Flourish homepage, and there would be this little tab, called Apply for Newsrooms, and you can just submit your request. So most newsrooms, I believe, in Southeast Asia and also in certain parts of India have already a free newsroom account access to Flourish. So if your newsroom already has access, but you don't have the premium account, perhaps you could ask your editorial to just have, perhaps they could share with you access to that premium account so you could get more features from Flourish. But ultimately, the free version is also pretty good because it does a lot as well. I would say that the only difference between the free and non-free version is that you could basically private your data visualization that once you've completed it. Well, else a public account, the public free account, whatever that you publish, it's not in private mode, and also you're able to basically copy in Google Sheets data directly onto Flourish if you have the premium account. But also in your free account, you can only, I think, you can't actually directly upload the data from Sheets, so you have to copy paste it in. Now, let's get started. So we're going to have a lot to cover today. I'm not covering all of the tools that the charts that are introduced that are available in Flourish because they have dozens of it. But we will try to cover at least some of the most commonly used ones that newsrooms can easily put together and they would most likely use. So as usual, you can go to g.co/newstraining if you want to look at what other trainings that GNI has and to offer online. Those are online courses. But as usual, if you also want your newsroom training or a journalism association training, you want to make a group request, you can send it over to us as well. Now today we'll be covering just a brief introduction to Flourish, and we'll look at how to make bar column charts, horse race chart, parliament chart, and election results. First off, I'll just give you a brief overview of what Flourish is, and then we'll head on into the nitty-gritty of actually making your own charts.
Flourish makes it easy to turn your data into beautiful on-brand visualizations, presentations, and interactive stories. It's simple. First, choose a template. Next, upload your data. And finally, use the settings to make it your own. From basic charts with added magic to rich data explorers that no other tool can create, to gorgeous data-driven maps, Flourish brings your data to life without coding, which leaves you free to amaze colleagues with stunning animated data presentations, or to engage audiences with data graphics on your website, or on social media, or at events. You can even integrate Flourish into your apps, dashboards, or CMS with our API for live data. And best of all, Flourish can be loaded up with your company color schemes, fonts, and logos, so everything you create will look as though it came from a design agency. The built-in library of templates is growing all the time, but if you need something more bespoke, it can be added by any developer, so there's almost no limit to what Flourish can do. To get started, all you need is a web browser. There's no software to install and no special skills required, so try it for free today and start bringing your data to life with Flourish.
Okay, so as you can see, Flourish is very easy to use, and you don't need any coding skills or graphic design skills. I have to admit, I myself do not know any coding or graphic design, But basically, by just choosing your templates that you think is most suitable for your story and just annotating it, dropping your data in it and adjusting the color palette and all that, you can actually create a very interesting and visually captivating chart. So when you come into the Flourish site, this is the landing page, and then you just need to click sign in or basically sign up, get started for free. Once you create your account, you would be able to see that these are the templates that are available. There are a lot of them, obviously, as you can see here. So what we're gonna do is, first off, we're gonna try making a simple bar chart, right? Now, if you have a graphic editor or designer in your newsroom, usually, especially if it's a print newsroom, usually they'll just use their own graphic designing tool and make a basic bar chart, right, for your print use. Now, you can actually do that yourself on Flourish, and you can then export it and use it as a for your print version if you want a JPEG, or it can be visually responsive like this. As when you scroll over, you can see the data there, and that can be used for your website, right, to go along with your article. Now, how do you do this? So what I use for this example, I would, let me just reject this setting because I have to reshare again. Hang on. There you go. Okay, it should be up now. There you go. So what I actually did for this was I just took data. For example, I wanted durian export data. Now, do you know that getting government data can be quite difficult, right? But I did manage to find this very helpful website called Comtrade, which is a UN site. It's UN Comtrade. So you can see the URL link here is comtrade.un.org/data. Now, this site is very useful because you can get all the import-export trade figures. And what I did was I actually just adjusted my parameters to get, say, the last few years data for and so, for example, maybe I can get up to 2019 because 2020 data usually only comes in after April, and after April, probably after Q1. So, and then I'll have to probably I know that the biggest exporters of durian is Thailand, but I just want to compare with how much the volume is with Malaysia, right? And yeah, partners means where they export to. So I'm just going to put this here. Well, if I want to be more specific, I can do that. And then instead of all, I just want to choose export. And I don't want all commodities. I just want to select durian. And then I choose durian. And then I go to get data. Then I would be able to get the set of data, which I would then download as a CSV file. And from that data, I think what you would get is, if I'm not mistaken, so wait, hang on. It's not showing here. What's the problem? Export. Okay, hang on. So what I actually ended up getting was this data sheet that looks like, I would show you how it looks like. What I got was basically year, reporter, trade value, and quantity in kilograms, right? But which is a lot because as you can see the volume here, I should just expand this so that you can actually look at it. Hold on. How do I zoom into this? Yes, there. So it's bigger. Yeah. So what you actually see here is that they will show you they will provide you the quantity in kilograms, which is huge amounts of numbers. So I would want to simplify this if I want to do this in a chart. And so I converted it into metric ton by using Google. I just convert all of it, key it in, and then after that, I make sure that the arrangement right now looks like this, but I want to need to rearrange it properly so that I could plug it into Flourish later on. So then I just basically rejig it to do it as year, the country, and the amount of metric ton that they exported out by year. So then I will copy this chart this table that I've cleaned up and made to a nice little thing. Then I will plug it into Flourish, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my projects. Okay, so my durian story is here. So what I did was I went and created a bar chart, which you can easily see. Let me just drop it here so that we can have a look. There, when I go to, this is my landing site when I sign in. So what you need to do is you need to click on, if you're a new user, this will be completely empty. You won't have any projects at all. So you just click on new visualization, and then you select the template that you want. Now in this case, I just wanted to do a simple bar chart. So then I would select bar chart. And by default, you will see no theme for you. So this is what I will see, right? And I would want to modify this to the data that I have. So I would just clear all this. These are guidances. So just FYI, you can see the year is here, the column. So these are, the great thing about Flourish is that they will recommend you how to format your data, which is why I know that, for example, what I downloaded as a CSV file from Comtrade will not work if I were to just copy and paste this direct into Flourish, because it is not in that same format that that Flourish suggested. So if I did a copy and paste of this, what's going to happen is that I won't get a proper bar chart. It will look very funny, or I'll not get anything at all. So then, which is why I rearrange my bar chart, my table to then copy into this. So hang on, let me just do this. Copy, and then I will paste it here. So then you can see that, okay, I've stuck my data in, and then what I need to do is I need to then adjust my data, right? So the labels for time would be in column A, which is correct. And my values, I only have 2 countries that I put in so far. If you have more, then obviously put more, but basically I'm only covering columns B and C. So if you happen to Z, then you go to B to Z, right? So then I've done this, and then I go to preview. So this is how it looks like right now. Perhaps I'm not too happy with the color. I want to change the color. I can just go to colors, right? Under preview, you go to colors, and then you click on this palette as a drop down, and you can select what palette that you have. These are like fixed palette colors that you see on Flourish. So perhaps I want to choose this, or I want to choose this. Either way, if I really don't like this, I can actually just, swap the color entirely. I'll show you how later on. And then there's lines and dots and areas, so this doesn't really apply if I'm just doing a bar chart. So then the other thing that I can do then is the x-axis and y-axis, right? Do I want to have the position at the bottom floated, which is just basically hiding it, floated above, top, or hidden? Okay, there you go. So I can also then adjust the minimum and maximum, just like how you can do in your sheets. You can also do it here, minimum and maximum value. And then you can also go to y-axis, and then you can configure if you want minimum maximum value, and then, or you can even put an axis title. So in this case, I think it's pretty obvious, it's year, so I don't need to put anything. And then I could then, let's see, I could also, I could do this footer. Yes, then I could list in my source name, so which I would then put in UN Comtrade. And if I have the URL, I could then just copy paste the URL. Right, let's go back to here. Yeah, paste, and then you can see that now it has appeared a source, and it says UN Comtrade. And if once I publish it, when I click on it, this would redirect me to the UN Comtrade page. Then if you have multiple sources, then you can also add on the other. So this would apply probably if you have like a combo chart where it's a bar and a line chart, and maybe you take the data from different websites, from different sources, then you can actually do this. Right. And you have a header, you can add a header. So I'm just going to put this as durian export from Thailand, Malaysia. And I'll put their subtitle between the years of 2015 to 2019. There you go. So you have all of this, and you can even adjust the alignment if you wanna. Let's see. I think you can also do animation duration. So this is how long it takes for the graphic to load on the site. So you can adjust the timing for this if you want it to be faster or slower. I think this will be useful later on when we talk about horse race chart, when you want to adjust the speed of the horse race chart. There, if you want to annotate, you can also annotate. So we'll also show you how to annotate later on. I think this is good enough to just do a basic chart, and you can, as always, you need to click export and publish, and then you click publish. And then you would see you have this here, right? You got to click on more options. Okay, and click on iframe. You copy this iframe code, and you can embed it onto your website. Most websites in newsrooms can accept iframe, so iframe is the most commonly used one. So then, as always, we would go back to code 10 to check our visualization. We would just drop the embed code here, and you can see that it is there, and it's responsive because when you scroll over it, you can see the data. So, okay, so this is how it works. Now we'll go back to slides, and we'll touch on the next tool, which is the column chart, right? So how do you make column chart? Same concept, right, as how you would do the bar chart. So I would show you the column chart I made, which was the GDP growth. There you go. So I'm going to show you how to do this and also annotate. So what you first have is I got the Indonesia GDP growth data, which if you have followed the lesson from previous, the last lesson, we actually got the GDP growth data from Data Commons. And it was a huge amount of data, right, which they gave in the CSV file from 1960 all the way to 2019. So I wanted to just track the last, since the millennium, right? What's the GDP growth like for Indonesia? So this is just a sample. Don't take it literally. I just anyhow annotate. It's not supposed to be real. So I just basically created a column chart using GDP growth for Indonesia from 2001 to 2019. And then it's a very simple table, right? What I did was I just dropped it 2001 until 2019. There, it only has basically 2 columns. Now, what I would want to annotate is how to add all these labels. This is called annotation. Okay, I am gonna just show you very simple on how to change the color first. Then we'll go into then annotation. So I'm gonna show you how I get these colors. I would basically go to colors. And by default, this is not how it looks like, right? How did I get to this point? Now, I'm going to just do one demo for you right now real quick on, and don't worry, we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So if you have any questions, just drop your questions right now in the comment section, and I would do my best to get back to you at the end of the session. So what I did was I copied these data, right? And then I just say, for example, I wanted to create a new visualization, I go to new visualization. I want to go to and make a column chart. There. It's a normal, typical column chart. So I'm just going to then drop my data here, clear this, drop my data in. Okay, I've gotten duplicates now. Undo. Okay, there you go. There you go. I've copied it. Okay, so it's done. I can see the preview mode here. It looks fine. I don't want this color though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select colors under preview. There is colors. I select it, and then I'm going to start editing the color palette. Okay, so I want maybe the year that I want it to stand out. Maybe I'll just pick like 2008 as the year that would stand out, and maybe I want this color. Or perhaps I don't like this palette at all. I could pick a different palette, right? I could maybe pick this palette. And then after that, go into edit color palette. And then maybe from here, oh, I like this purple. Maybe I'll take this. So I just need to copy this code, this color code. Okay. And then I'm going to start removing, Xing, clicking on X on all these different color codes. Okay. So basically, all my charts are now, all my columns are now in the same color. And then I would just then put their custom override, put 2008, double dot, and then I'll paste the color code that I wanted. Let's wait a bit. Do I need to space this? Okay, wait, hang on. Oh, sorry, by row. There you go. Okay, but it's turning quite funny on the side. So let me see, edit color palette is correct. Okay, so then as you can see, the one that gets custom override right now is the 2008 row, which gets the color. But I'm not sure why this is doing this. So perhaps we can just play around and use a different color palette. And then I would edit color palette. Again, I would delete all of this. Okay. This is very strange. So what I managed to do with this was that I actually, if you can see, the edit color palette, there is 666. Let's see. Do this. Oh, there, done. So we have the other columns basically made into gray. And then the one that we want to override is 2008. And then we copied and paste the earlier color that we chose. And then so you only see this. And then so the next thing you want to do is want to annotate. So if you scroll down, you see this section called Annotations. And you can either show highlights on the x-axis or show highlights on the y-axis. So I'm going to choose the x-axis. And then maybe I would put there, I would just randomly create something, right? So I would just put there post recovery. And then I need to put the dots, the double dots twice. And then I put that 2009. There you go. So it will appear post recovery there on 2009. So I can even put like more than one, right? I could also put in another one that I'll say like perhaps unemployment. I'm just randomly putting things. Okay, so it's not real. It's not made up. Unemployment crisis. With the double dot again. Maybe I'll just put this as 2014. Then I wait for it to appear. Oh, this is sorry range I highlights. It's there 2015. This is if you want to get the range highlights. So what you want to do is if you have another one here, you can put there elections, for example, dot 2018. There you go. And then you would have like an extra line. You just need to have one row for each. And this is the range. If you want to just put an unemployment crisis period, it's 2014 to 2015, then you could have it here. You could also adjust the color. So for example, maybe I want it to be red, right? And then it appears red, and maybe I just want the area to be like shaded differently. There, the text, maybe I want it to be darker. I could even change the color of the text. So there you go. So you have this different labelings right now that you have done under annotations. And you could even adjust where the labeling styling is. You could have it at the bottom, in the middle, or on the top, or you want to have it vertical, or you want to have it horizontal. So it's up to you how you want to do it. Okay, and you can, same thing, you can also adjust the animation time. And if you have a footer, you can add in the source label. So all of this I can just do, and then I need to click export and publish. Same thing. And yes, the other way to annotate is in the storyboard, which I would show it to you. So for example, I've done this. I would want to now do a different type of annotation, different type of annotation style, which is I would just go to create a story. And once it loads, you can see there's a little pencil icon on the right. If you click on it, it's actually an annotation. So I could just select, perhaps I want to select which year, say 2004. I'll just click here, and then I can actually type my annotation. So maybe I could say here, for example, palm oil prices. Okay. And then I could then adjust what marker type I want. Now there's no marker type. Maybe I want it to be a point, a round shape, square shape. So I could choose whatever I want. And I could also adjust the connector type to where I want it to just align like this, or even like this, right? So maybe I want it to be designed like this, and maybe I want to move the way I'll just drag it, move the way my text would look. Okay, maybe it doesn't look so nice, so I'll do this. It looks the same. Maybe I'll just do this. And then I could, let's see, what else can I do? Yes, I could then adjust my text color. Example, I'll just make it all text in red. There you go. And I could even adjust what my line color looks like if I want to do it. And I could adjust the text size, text width. If I want to do a line marker, you can do that. And there you go. So you have this, right? And you just need to minimize it. And you can see that you have done your annotations on a column chart. You can do the same with the bar chart as well, right? And of course, when you're done, you just need to click export and publish. So that's that. And so if you need to have a full guide on how to go about this, I do have 2 links that I can copy and share with you right now so that you can have a look at it when you have time. So Flourish, the great thing about Flourish is that they always have guides, either in their blog posts or in their YouTube channel, which I find very helpful and handy to just pick up all the different tools that you see on Flourish. So if, for example, I wanted to like create a story, which means that I wanted to have like, changes to see over time, perhaps what I would do is, okay, so this is my first, perhaps what I could do is, I could add, say, slide, choose a visualization. And I did something previously, right, which was on the Indonesian GDP. I had another chart for that. Hang on, there you go. So I could just drag and adjust, right? So if this is the, and then I could add caption, say, Indonesia GDP growth since the millennium, right? And then you just go next, and it goes to this. Wait, hang on. Why is it not? There you go. Oh, there. Finally, it takes a bit of time for it to load and respond. Let's put it a bit bigger. So this is the first story that we got. Then this is the second story. Then you can keep adding new changes, new slides to like create the story. Preferably, the advice that we would give is that you should use the create story function for the same data set, but just to change it up to just show the differences. So say, for example, if we have, what I'm gonna do is, what if I were to like just have this normalize? I will create a duplicate for this, and then I'll normalize it. Hang on, let me see if I were to just go to here, I create a duplicate slide. No, then I can just add annotation. No, this is not what I want to do. Let me delete this. Delete. What if I were to just have this as a duplicate? So I just want to duplicate this. I would need to go back to my home. Hold on. My Indonesia GDP, let me duplicate that. Okay. Annotate chart, no. There you go. So I just want to duplicate this visualization. There, I have a copy of it now. Then I just want to like change up the color so I can show the difference. So the original one was no. So original is like very tricky because it's all in the same color. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clear this. I'm gonna edit color palette. I am going to make it all blue, for example. So I'll delete everything except blue. Okay, this is very, very strange. I'm not quite sure why it's behaving this way. Okay. So by right, if I were to get a, say, like a series where I have like to show all the different years at first, and then I'll just want to highlight 2008, and then after that, I'll highlight the different markers. So you can actually, you can actually do like a series with a story with just the same data set, and then you will be able to tell like maybe from the start to later on the end what happens. Okay, so this is just an example. I would move on to the next one. Okay, we've already talked about this, how you could then, basically do your highlights, annotations. So this is the tutorial that I mentioned earlier on how to create your story. So I did a demo here just to show all of you using this urban population data template that they have on Flourish. I hope that was clear. If it's not, then you can please ask the question. So I'll try to ask a few questions. So on creating maps, right? We'll actually cover maps next week, Wednesday, at the same time. That's the 5th session, which is basically, it's called creating custom maps. And so if you want to save it as a GIF, actually you would only be able to export it as a JPEG, but not as a GIF. So I'll show you how to export, say, for example, when you want to export and publish, right? There, it says here, download HTML or download image. So if you're in a print newsroom, you would just download image. If you want to do a GIF like what I'm doing right now, actually what I did was I used a Chrome capture tool. Basically, I just have an extension whereby I capture the animation and recorded it as a GIF. So what you see in my earlier slides were all just basically Chrome capture. I hope this clarifies. And so the next thing that we want to go into is the horse race chart. So for example, if you see this horse race chart, right? One way for us to get data as well, if you guys don't know, is that you can actually get data from Google Trends. So for this horse race chart, actually, I took the data from Google Trends. I just looked up the search queries in terms of interest for COVID-19 vaccine in Indonesia and in India in the last 90 days, and I just wanted to compare, right? And then there, when you search it up on Google Trends, you can actually hit this download button, which also downloads as a CSV file. So once I have that, I would then, let me just show you how the data looks like once I copied it into the sheets, right? So I actually have my data in this format, which is a vertical chart. Let me just reduce this a little. So you can see the dates, okay, from 2020, November, all the way up to recent, right, 2021. So, and I have all these values. Now, if you were to go to a horse chart race template, if you go to click new visualization, and then you scroll down, you look for the line chart race. So you just want a simple one, say for example. And then they have like I said, they always have a templated data on Flourish, which gives you a guideline on what you should be putting. And then you click on data and you can see that they have all these data sets, right? Now you don't need all of this, so because you're gonna have your own. But as you can see, the timeline that they put is all on horizontal. So, but the data that you got when you downloaded a CSV file from Google Trends, as is with a lot of data that you download, even from government sites, it could be on this vertical format. So what do? You need to then change it into this format, right? From vertical to horizontal format. Now the table, if you remember when we talk about sheets, we talk about this function called transpose. So you just have to put equals transpose and then open column, and you just need to select basically and then double dot. And the last cell would be C91, right? Then hit enter, and you would get the data in this format, right? Sorry, I think I missed out a row. So I would just alter this A1. There you go. So then I have this, then I just need to just copy this entire data set, and then I copy it into Flourish. So let me just do that. I will actually have a template already. It is here. So then what I did was I just copied and pasted the data here. And in the template, the guidance that Flourish gave, the B column was reserved for photo, right? And they have the image column here, which you could put in as a B column. So then what I did was since I'm doing a comparison on Indonesia and India's Google Trends search, so I just took from Wiki Commons the country flag. and I just stick the links in. Then I hit preview, and I have those 2 lines basically running, right? And I could do replay. Remember how I said you can adjust the speed? So I think this is where it comes in handy. So by default, you will see very funny because automatically, this is what Flourish showed you at the start. You need to change ranks to score. Then you'll be able to see this. And then I could go into colors to basically adjust. I changed the color because I thought that, India, I should give it green because it's a country flag. Right? I'll just give it Indonesia because it's also the country flag. More of a symbolic reason. And so then I also go into animation, which is where I adjusted the speed. So I can just put it down to 100 if I want to, and then just hit replay and see how fast it plays. Pretty fast, right? If I were to just change it to 500, and then I hit replay, it's much slower now. So it depends on how fast you want your animation to load. So, and then of course, I also adjust the, just check on the X and Y axis if I'm okay with the text angle. I put it at 0 because I thought it was easy to look at dates. If not, you can also do like 45 degrees, 60 degrees, whichever suits your need. And Y axis, same thing. I just check on it. Looks fine. Don't need to do anything to it. Layout, then you can choose your font type, text color, and you can choose the layout order. There you go. So you have to play around with this, and then obviously the footer is where you put the source, right? You will have to play around with this in order to like familiarize. So I always recommend people to when you make changes, even though after you published it, so then they would have the button will turn yellow and it's asking you to republish. So if you update your chart, you can just make changes on Flourish and then click republish. And automatically whatever that is embedded onto your website will also update itself. It's responsive that way. Right. So this is an example of a bar chart race done by a regional, it's a local media outlet in India. So they did this, and you could actually have your bar chart together with a graph at the bottom. And the guide to do that is actually, I will just copy, paste the guide here. I think we might have a bit more time, so I can actually go into this. So let me just show you the example that I did. This is okay, no, not this. Hang on. Okay, so for example, you have this, right? And this bar chart, and I wanted to smaller the graph at the bottom. You can actually go to, this is the time counter. No, that's one little thing called charts. Hang on. There you go. Timeline and annotation. And then you just need to enable it on timeline and play on load and visibility, graph visibility show. So just let me go back to it. Okay, timeline and animation. There I already have timeline selected. So if I were to just remove it, then it would just, what's the difference? There you go, the bottom timeline. And then I have, right now, graph is on high. So I just need to click show. And then I can have the graph shown. And then I can even adjust to have the graph curved lines or not. And I could even adjust the background color. If I don't want it to be just white, I could just do like off-white. Oh, this looks pink anyways. So then I could just do it like this. I can even adjust the button color, the playback button. And that's how you play around with it. And I played around with this because I also adjusted the bar color just to highlight and show Asia as well, which is why I changed all the palette to gray except for Asia, which is the custom override here. Okay, so let's see if I have anything else that I miss. Oh yes, the other thing that that you see that this has is that there is this captions on the chart. Now, if you go to when you want to create your visualization, new visualization, there is this tool under bar chart race. It says, let me just expand it so you can look at it clearly. It says images with captions. So we just took the normal bar chart race earlier, right? Or you could even choose a column chart race, but you could also choose images with captions. So if you select this option, you could actually have another tab inside data. It's called captions. And so then they would give you the option from like within the timeline from when to when, and then you add in the captions. And then the captions will appear in the middle because of your setting, in your setting, right? There, captions in your position is center, which is why you would see the captions appear in the center. If you change it to the bottom left, there you go. So it's a pretty cool function to have if you also want to, like, instead of using annotation, you want to have the captions appearing at certain time of the animation. You can also do that. Right. Okay, let me go back, see if I covered anything else. Okay, and there are other bar or line or column flourish charts that you can use, which we didn't cover today, which is this is the line chart searchable. So you just create a line chart, but it's a searchable line chart. So this is an example that was made by a local media outlet in Malaysia. And on the right is actually something that folks at the Harvard Medical School did, is that they use Flourish to create a grid of line or a grid of column chart, right? So you can actually also have multiple charts within one visualization as well. The next one is that we'll cover is Parliament chart. So remember, we also did some like preliminary, extracting data lesson on Wednesday on how to like pull out data from PDFs, right? And we used the Bihar state election as an example. Now, after we extracted those data, we want to put it into a Parliament and create a Parliament chart visualization, we can actually do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you the data that I put together, that I managed to pull out from the PDF. This was for the Bihar state election in 2015, and then I also pulled one for 2020 because I wanted to make a comparison in Parliament seat chart to show what has changed between the 2015 and 2020 elections. Now I'm going to go back to the copy. We're actually running low on time, so I'm going to try to like cover this quickly. So this is the Bihar state seat that I created as a demo. And the data, as you can see, I divided from the data that I got here, which is like 243 seats. I basically 243 seats because the first row is not counted. 243 seats. I basically have to then just did like a create filter function in order to like figure out how many seats were there per party, right? So then I managed to trim it down and figure out, okay, JDU in 2015 got 71 seats, 2020 they got 43 seats. So I did all these calculations and then I just put it into a new table and I put it together, copied and pasted it onto Flourish. And then I would make sure that my column A is the party name, column B and C are seats. Okay. Go to preview, automatically Flourish does its magic. It even calculates for me the seat change. And then I can see 2020, 2015. Now, you have to make sure that the number of seats here is adjusted according to what you have, which is 243 seats. because by default, Flourish should show you either 500 or 600 seats, which is a lot, right? So you have to adjust and change the number here. You can even adjust the size of the arc and inner space between the seats. So, and you can highlight parties and hover, right? So I enabled this so that people can actually see. There you go. And then the color template, as usual, you can choose the color template. If you want to have an override, time's up. If you want to have an override, you can do the same. And then you can also adjust the animation time. Right now it's very fast. Maybe I should make it slower. It's freezing there. Oh, this is a bit too slow. So, just 5. Okay. There you go. Okay, maybe I should make it faster. Anyways, this is what you can do. And then, of course, at the footer, you could also then put your source, which is the Indian Election Commission, and I put in the website so you can see links. And the header is the title, right, which is the Bihar State Election Results 2015-2020. I hope this is very simple and easy to make. The only tedious part is that you have to do some calculations for each party, and you can see the seat change. Now, the next one, and then of course you can put it onto CodePen and test it out. The last one is the election results chart. Now, the election results chart, it's a bit more tricky because you have to ensure that every single cell is actually inserted with data. But it is also very nifty because it shows you, this is the one I created, so you can have a look at it. I can have a drop down here, which is amazing. So if I want to do this, I can do this for all of the states in India. Or if I'm in Malaysia, where I am, I could put all of the states in Malaysia, and I could do like a state assembly seat, right? So in this case, I only did an example for Bihar and Delhi. And right now it's showing me Bihar. I can then select Delhi, and I can see, Delhi is very different. There are only 70 seats, and like it's like basically just 2 parties, right? But Bihar, there are like so many parties contesting, right? So the data, how does it come about? Now, I had to do a lot of cleaning up with this data in order to put it into this format. And like I mentioned, you need to put in like, even if it's 0, because in Delhi, these parties are not contesting in Delhi, but they contested in Bihar. So I have to put it as 0. Otherwise, I'll not get an election chart. So I did this, and then this is current data, and I also did the historical data for 2015 as well. And the reason I did that was because I could then show readers how many percentage increase or drop, right, that they gain in terms of seats. So the BJP gained like 21%, whereas the RJD lost 5% from the previous election. Then I can also click to toggle. So just say I want to eliminate all the small little parties. I just want to see the bigger ones. Or maybe I just want to see the smaller ones and not see the bigger ones, right? You can actually do this. There you go. Scroll over, you can see. So that's how you play around with it. I think there are no special thing other than that. Okay. Yep, I think that's about it. So I hope this makes it clear on how to use the election results chart. Of course, best way is to always test it out yourself and play around a bit. Otherwise, you would not know how to use it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me by email or post it up onto the comment section right now. I would always appreciate any feedback that you have. So if you could just, very quickly submit a feedback on the feedback form, which you can just scan the QR code or go to the bit.ly link. We appreciate your feedback because we're constantly trying to improve our series of webinars. So this webinar also came about due to feedback that we got last year from one of the workshops that we ran, that we introduced a lot of interesting tools, but never thought you guys had to use it step by step. So, which is why we came about with this series. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please ask. If not, then we'll end it in another 1 minute or so. Any questions? Yes, no? On the question I'm making, so this is what I actually use. I use two different tools. Of course, there are many Chrome extensions out there that does GIF capture, screen capture to make it into GIF. So I use Screencastify and also Chrome Capture. Both are pretty useful. I've not had any problems with it, but I'm sure there are also others out there that are free and available for you to use, which are just as good. If we do not have any questions to answer, then I will end this session here today. So our next session would be on Monday, same time. We'll be talking about a continuation of Flourish, but we'll be talking about how to make cards and table on Flourish. And then on next Wednesday at the same time as well, we'll be talking about making custom maps on from Google Sheets, My Maps, and also Flourish. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. See you again next week, Monday. Take care. Have a good weekend and stay safe. Bye.